This week on the Footy Mailbag, Damo has beef with Facebook. We talk all things mid-season draft, and the buys are upon us. It's best 18 for the next few weeks, and we're going to tell you what to do while we answer all your questions. Hello and welcome to the Footy Mailbag, where this intro only gets recorded one time. I'm hosting this week. It's your boy Clarky, and hey, I've got the beautiful man out west himself, Damo, right with me.
Hello, Clarky. How are you, my friend?
It's been a weird week because I'm very happy with football, but I'm very unhappy with Supercoach. And Damo, we have reason to be even more unhappy than usual because the buys, they arrive.
Yeah, I didn't want the buys to arrive, but it just kind of happened.
We took our eyes off the horizon for a split second, and now look at us. It's round 12, and the first of the buys are here. But before we get into what you should be doing with your teams this week, I want to have a little check-in with my friend Damo. Damo, how's your team going this week?
It is a steaming pile of
Slip.
shit.
Okay. You know what? I think we're going to have to bring in... My daughter is starting to replicate sounds, so I am slowly going to be trying to remove some of the more explicit words. So, Damo, I think I'm going to hold you to that as well.
Okay.
Watch your language. Watch your profanities.
It is a steaming pile of codswallop.
That's good. I like that one. What happened to you this week? Well, what have you identified your failings? Do you know what your moves are going to be?
It's so hard trading in the first buy round because you're just trading in guys who are going to be on a buy later.
Yeah, right.
And in a perfect world, I wouldn't be trading, but players like getting injured at the moment, and that's not good for us. But yeah, I mean, I'm still managing my team like a middle-aged man at a fucking Coles.
Huh?
Only going for the specials and throwing out the bad carrots.
This is a very specific analogy, but I'm going to let it ride. Anyway, continue. Continue, sir.
I don't like that I said it. No,
hang on. I'll meet you at the self-serve checkout. You just keep shopping.
But I said at the end of last year that I would give players one more week to prove that they could stay in my team. I just haven't been doing that, and now my team is... I open my team and I just look at it and go, I don't know what to do because everything is broken.
But that goes not only for the Essendon injury list and all of their players over 190 centimetres, but I think it goes for a lot of people this week. And look, I'm sure it's part of the main topics, but we can kind of discuss it a little bit now. But obviously, major injuries to the likes of popular rookie from last week, Cooper Simpson, has sustained an injury that required surgery on his AC joint, which means that he is most likely going to be out for the rest of the season. Charlie Spargo, who was a relatively popular trade in a few weeks ago and has been doing quite well, making some decent cash. He has broken his scapula, I believe, in an incident with Callum Mills. Callum Mills is also gone for 1 week from this incident, but Charlie Spargo won't be back until later this year, if at all. He is a trade out. We've still got the likes of Jack McRae. If you're holding him, feel some pain. If you're one of the special people who brought in Jack Silvani, you are feeling the pain. And Damo, let's talk about the golden boy. You know what? I'm going to say it. He is the rookie of the year. Zach Reed, unfortunately, has suffered a quad injury? Hamstring.
Yeah.
Hamstring. He suffered a hamstring injury and will not be back until at latest around 19. And I imagine, given his injury history, Essendon will be quite conservative with it. So very much it's really inopportune to have, at the minimum, 3 injuries. If you're unlucky to have all 3 of those players in the first buy round is really hard. So what strategy do you think is going to be your way out and to way into this?
So my own strategy is probably not going to help anyone. My own strategy is to close my eyes and just keep running forward through walls.
That works for
But
some people. I like
no,
that.
I mean the
Cop a bad
strategy
one
is
this week.
like the strategy would be like in real terms, prioritize trading out people who are injured, not just players who aren't playing, because the beauty about Ben Patton, Harry Boyd, if people still have those guys, or even Lucas Cambarelli on a bye, they could come in at some point because they are not injured at present. But if you still own someone like you said, a Charlie Spargo, or you traded in Cooper Simpson last round, they're going to be gone for way longer than you should be holding them for. So yeah, those guys, you're not going to make a lot of cash from them, but you should be able to find someone who can at least continue the cash train going.
Yeah, that's it. And I think that's going to be the key this week, right? Is to continue your cash gen in as few trades as possible. That's what I'm doing with my team this week. I unfortunately copped all three of those injuries, plus a Sardell Hawley, plus the Jack Silvani, and plus a Jack McRae that I'm still holding. So it's actually the walking wounded over at Mark of the Year. It's not good, but I think my priority this week will be to get those injuries off field, try to bring in people who have some job security, and I'm bringing in Premium, who is going to be playing in my worst coverage buy. In Damo, you and I spoke about this literally just before recording. At the moment, it's Cozzy Pickett, who is playing in round 16, where I have the least amount of available players. So I think it's really important, listeners, to just remember that you can just keep moving on, focus on what you can this week, and keep to your strategies. Buy planning is difficult, and there's always going to be a spanner because we play this game that's made up on real events that are unpredictable. So the great decision that you made last week is a bad decision in hindsight, but there's nothing to do but to move forward and focus in and get through the buys relatively unscathed. Best 18 helps a lot this week. Moving on to our next topic. Damo, you got beef with Facebook is what I've got here. You have the floor.
Yeah, so Thursday nights we post the traffic lights once the teams come out.
Never heard of them.
I'll post it on Instagram. That's because you never do the traffic lights, Clarky. We'll post it on X or Twitter or whatever people call it these days. I'll also, try and put it on Facebook. But when you post something on Facebook, it's like, is this an event? Would you like to queue it to? Would you like to queue it to go live on February 31st, 2047? And it's like, no, I literally just would like to post my picture. Thank you, Facebook. So on Friday morning, I logged in to double check something, and there was no traffic lights, and there were people very angry that there were no traffic lights. And it turns out I might have not waited for a pop-up, because why does Facebook give you 15 pop-ups before they post anything that you want to post? Make it easier, Facebook. I don't like using your platform as it is, but this could be the final straw if it continues, because stop it. Just let me post a picture on a Thursday night and let me be done with it.
Yeah, that Mark Zuckerberg. If you ever fucking go to WA, it's on. It's absolutely on. Damo's going to bash you on site until you fix it. Now, Damo, currently, as we speak, the mid-season draft is going along. We know... Are you making a face?
Mid-season draft is finished, mate. We know who's going places.
I don't know what time it is, but hey, the mid-season draft is going on. We know where everyone's going at the moment. And Damo, you have very lovingly gotten some key stats for some of the players that we should keep an eye on in the coming weeks.
Yeah, so shout out to Azza. I mean, he's not doing Supercoach this year. I don't know if he's ever going to return to Supercoach, but he is still very reliable with his stats, and I love him for that. So yeah, West Coast drafted Tom McCarthy from Richmond's VFL. He is someone that I would keep a very close eye on. He averaged 103 Supercoach in 7 VFL games. North Melbourne, Port Adelaide didn't really draft anyone that might be good now. I mean, Port Adelaide with their last selection picked up Manny Liddy from Central Districts. He's an in and under midfielder who averaged 125 Supercoach across 7 Sandful games. So he's one maybe to keep an eye on, but I don't know who he comes in for. And then you look at other guys around. Rowan Steele out of the Waffle went to Collingwood. He averaged 92. I don't know if he's going to come in or not, but we know that Collingwood are giving their VFL team a run and if they don't want to play their veterans. And then the big one that stands out to me at the moment, though, is Michael Selwood out of the Waffle, averages 126. He's a rebounding defender, can play on the wing, can play in the midfield. He went to the Western Bulldogs, and we know that Luke Beveridge loves a mid-season draft pick.
Absolutely. Was it Lockie Bramble? Was he a mid-season pickup for them?
I think Bramble was a mid-season draft, yeah. But Anthony Scott was one, I think.
Yep. It's interesting to see.
Caleb Poulter was one, I think. I think they're all playing at the moment.
Yeah, doesn't Caleb Poulter play for a different team now? Do you play for Collingwood now?
So he was at Collingwood, but then got picked up by Western Bulldogs, yeah.
That was the reverse. I was thinking the reverse. Anyway, yeah. Sorry. That's a unnecessary aside. Well, thank you. Who do you have your eye on probably the most Supercoach-wise?
Supercoach relevant, I think Selwood and McCarthy are probably the two main ones. I didn't mention him, but we know that Essendon are lacking like talls and key position guys. Lockie Blackiston from the East Fremantle Football Club, he's like a forward ruck who can kind of, they might choose to rest Todd Goldstein at some point. He averages 82 Supercoach across this Waffle season so far. So he's one to also keep an eye on that, might be dual position, might not be, who knows.
It's cool that Essendon have only picked up tall players. Tells you just how bad things are going for them right now, that they're picking a lot of really, really decent out-of-the-box players. So I'm really hoping...
Funny tidbit. So Archer May's mum is currently dating Dermot Brereton, and Archer May got picked up by Essendon, and obviously Dermot Brereton has a very storied career about hating Essendon and Essendon players, so that's going to be awkward at the dinner table, isn't it?
Well, it's nice to lash out at your stepdad, isn't it, sometimes? I don't, is that a thing? I don't know. I hope you have, hey, listeners, I hope you have a healthy relationship with your parents, both step and otherwise. It's excellent. We'll have more information about that probably after we see some of these guys debut and come through, because it's all speculation, but we know the teams that, we kind of have a good idea of these teams that are struggling, so it's pretty clear which guys are going to get a break in, or at least a look in soon, which will hopefully help us with the rookie crisis that's going on at the moment. We'll move it on to, we've already done injuries, we've already done buys. I'm just looking at my list here. Hey, do we even need to trade this week? We kind of talked about this a little bit just before. I think there are two scenarios, right? And Damo, this, you've said it as a joke before, but I think there is a world where maybe we just think, hey, shut our eyes, fingers in the air, and just get through this week without even spending a trade.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of merit to it. You're only going to be trading in guys who have buys coming up or are currently on a buy. If you hold Zach Reid for a week, he's not going to lose cash, or he's not going to make cash sitting on the injury list. So you've still got that money there. Luke Traynor, I'll see lots of people trading him out. He played forward and was terrible against Essendon. But
why would you do that, Uzi?
But yeah, you could probably hold him for another week if you had to, because warm bodies and all that. But yeah, like you probably just if you're going to trade your injured guys first before you trade people out of a luxury or kind of a luxury. But yeah, like, do you really need to trade? You're just trading in guys who are going to have buys soon.
Yeah, that's it. I think the best advice that we can give you at this point, in a general sense, is really look in and listen to what your team structure is telling you. If you can hold this week, if you don't have too many injuries mounting, and if you have a best 18 available team, then really consider who you're bringing in and how it's going to impact those other rounds that you have ready to go. Hey, Damo, it's time for my spark.
Hey, yeah, it is. Clarky, who is your spark this week?
Clarky, you look like you have something to say. Hey, this guy is still only in 13.7% of teams. Sorry. I am not well this week and I am all phlegmed up and I can feel it. Like, you know, when you can feel it sort of going back and forth between nostrils and it's affecting my ability to, I sound weird to myself.
Clarky, who is your spark?
Anyway, sorry, I'm having a bad time. My spark this week is a man who's only owned in 13.7% of teams, but is currently the 4th overall total points scorer in Supercoach. He's currently on a bye this week, but given the rookie trouble that we have available, you might be considering moving some guys who were already not playing. You might have a best 18 team available, and you might be suffering in the buys to come. So my suggestion this week is that you trade in a guy who has all of the tattoos, Mr. Tom Liberatore.
You said he's on the bye. Sell me on trading in a guy that's on a bye.
You already have a best 18 team. This scenario for me, I'm thinking, hey, I've got like 18 million injuries. I've got the cash to spend, but I do have enough to cover my best 18. And also, on top of that, I'm really suffering either next round, the round after, or the round after that. So I'm talking big long-term buy planning, big structure. He is off the back of 3 on-the-trot scores over 120 and has dipped below 100 only one time this whole season, Damo. For 595, I think him missing a week this week is not the end of the world if you can factor it into, I know it's a very specific scenario that you're going to want to buy this card, but if you can fit it into your structure and planning, there's a world where I think this is the perfect week to bring in Tom Liberatore.
Yeah, okay. I actually have been looking at him while you've been talking, and I like him. I mean, most people will compare him to a similarly priced guy like Ed Richards, but Ed Richards' scoring is kind of more volatile than what Tom Liberatore seems to be. So, yeah, I mean, maybe he's a guy that people look at instead of Ed Richards.
Absolutely. Like, I know, look, the sparks are tough to sell in the first week of the buys because, as we've already discussed, guess what? Every player that I suggest is probably going to be on a buy in one of the next coming weeks.
And speaking of tough sells,
go on.
Traffic lights in the first buy week. That's going to be so hard. I just realized how hard that's going to be.
I think we're just going to close our eyes and put our fingers in our ears and just keep moving ahead and assume that people will make it the best available decisions for their current structure.
Yeah, I mean, would it piss people off if there just was no traffic lights this week? Probably.
Well, yeah. Hey, I don't know I don't know what the conversion rate on people who listen to this show and the people who just follow the traffic lights, but people love a visual medium. So if you're listening and you like the traffic lights, we love you. If you're listening but you don't like the traffic lights, we still love you. If you just like the traffic lights and you don't listen, oi, what are you fucking doing? Get this in your ears. Give us a rating and review on all your podcast platforms of choice. Follow us at the Footy Mailbag on all social media. But that's my spark for this week.
Excellent.
It's a nice easy one, isn't it?
Yeah.
I still think he's quite. I thought I was quite surprised when I looked at it because I know last week I made a big deal about just picking guys who aren't obvious, and 13.7% feels very low for a guy who, like I said, has only gone below 100 one time this year.
I mean, there's a guy that sits below him in the total points, his Humor Cluggage. I'm still expecting just the bottom to fall out and him start averaging 80 for just out of nowhere, but it's just not coming. It's just not happening.
Yeah, it's really weird, isn't it? It's great. I love it. Supercoach is perfect and makes sense. Damo, it's time for listener questions. Now, listeners, we do ask that you submit your questions before 8 p.m. Melbourne time. However, there is going to be a change to this for next week only. So next week we are going to be recording on a Tuesday night to suit the needs of our guests of that week. So your questions will need to be in by 8 p.m. Tuesday night, Melbourne time. Australia was that Australian Eastern. Are we standard or daylight saving? Standard time, I think, at the moment. We've got
Melbourne time.
So submit it then. Send us a voice memo if you want. That's on our website right next to the question form. Send it to us on Twitter. Send it to us on Facebook. You can message us. We love you. Thank you so much for your questions. Now, Damo, this first person has sent us a voice message, and hey, nothing wrong in being number 2 because you're still special. This one comes in from Ernest. Thank you so much.
Hey boys, I'm really stuck in terms of what to do this week. I'm going to trade out Leak, who's been hanging around in my team for weeks, and Simpson, both dead rookies. Thinking about going early on Clark and maybe getting in Gray. My real issue is LDU, who I always planned to actually bump out of my team and upgrade to maybe a Merit or someone similar. But I'm unsure if I should spend the trade on him or not, or if I should wait, be more patient, see what rookies become available, and wait for a better option down the line. There's bigger priorities on my team than LDU. He's still, he's averaging 95. He's not doing terribly. Anyway, appreciate advice and guidance. Cheers.
Thanks, Ernest. Hey, we love that. Hey, you got a beautiful voice. Thank you. Thank you for sending us that. I don't know, Damo. What do you reckon? Do you think LDU should be Ernest's priority this week?
Well, I mean, North Melbourne are on a bye, so if he's not happy with what he's producing, now's the time to do it. Now is 100% the time to do it. But he says he's got other issues, and LDU is fine to stick around for a little while. So maybe he should focus on getting his dead rookies in the bin, getting his rookies on field, off field, and then maybe at the end, once that's all sorted, then maybe LDU can be upgraded.
Yeah, I think the whole thing is that LDU is always going to have that role, right? He's superstar in the North Melbourne machine. They have paid out the wazoo for him. He's not going anywhere. So there's always a chance he could uptick from here. So I think if you've already flagged to yourself that you've got bigger issues, you probably know that, hey, you could go either way on this, right? And especially he's not going to lose any money this week. So
yeah,
he still holds that equity until the next round if you still decide you want to get rid of him next week. Bringing in Campbell Gray seems to be a pretty decent option this week. He has pretty favourable reviews from Uze. He has pretty favourable reviews while Noah Bolter is on curfew for being a dickhead. And nothing wrong with that. Angus Clark is one that I'm kind of on the fence about because listed as a defender but playing forward, so...
Playing wing. Playing wing floating forward, yeah.
Wing floating forward. Essendon have so many injuries, though, so maybe he does have the job security, but I also wouldn't put it past Brad Scott to float the magnets around to find something that works.
How often, though, have we been burned this season by going early on rookies? That is my only issue.
Almost every rookie I've brought in since after the initial rookies I picked.
Yeah.
I think that's the answer for me personally.
Yeah. And going early on them has been even more of a disaster, especially for those who brought in Hugh Boxall. That's probably the most recent one that I can think of that people brought in early. I know people went early on Cooper Simpson. Obviously, he was injured in his bubble game, so everyone got caught up in that. But, I'm just not sure about going early on rookies at the moment. I think we really do need to wait for them to be on a bubble before we jump on. And yeah, that means that there's not a lot of rookies to choose from, but it's just safer.
Well, the good news is, Damo, that Angus Clark is only 189 centimetres, so he might be safe from the current Essendon curse.
Yeah, but in boots he might be over 190.
Oh, does the curse take into account boots? We'll find out. It's a tough one. It's a tough one. You can't predict injury, so that's kind of take that out of the equation. I think sometimes we just have to go with whatever the best available option that is that week.
Yeah.
And not look back. Because I will say, power to Ernest. He's still got James Leake.
Yeah, and, well, to be honest, it was looking like James Leake could play. So, and I don't think that's off the table because, I mean, Finn Callahan is still 5 weeks away. We don't know. I don't know where Josh Kelly is, but he's around, but not playing at the moment. So maybe James Leake does come in, and he's got great VFL numbers at the moment, playing as an specialist inside mid, just like what Callahan was playing. So
Josh Kelly's probably just busy getting all caught up in Toby Green's thirst trap from the weekend, which is one of the most astounding football pitches that I've ever seen in my life. Toby, you hang dong however you need to, my man. You've said it's, you know what? GWS have really picked up their social media game. We'll move on to AJ, who has a question for us, Damo. Why is the footy schedule such a bloody shambles? Whose fault is it, and how do we get them to go away? Unfortunately...
Is he talking about the buys? Because, to be honest, if the Tasmania team gets off the ground, we might have buys every week.
Which is the worst of all universes.
Yeah, but we will also have rookies that have to play every single week for Tasmania to field a team.
Which is the worst of every universe, because they all go in the bubble at the same time, Damo.
Yeah, but it sounds like Tassie's not going to vote for the stadium, so everyone will be out of a job soon anyway.
Yeah, fair enough. I don't know. The unfortunate answer is that no matter what you do and no matter how much you fight and struggle against the AFL machine, they will continue to make decisions that will somehow turn around and bite us in the butt for Supercoach.
Because they don't listen to the fans. They listen to the money.
I will say as well, I did see, is it maybe John Ralph or someone on Twitter was like, well, what do the fans want to see? Nobody listens to fans. And every single comment I saw underneath that was a shambles, because not even the fans, like it's that scene in The Simpsons where it's like, you kids don't know what you want. Like nobody is unified in what they want. So I think after a certain point, I mean, the bullshit capitalism aside, obviously that's bad, but at some point we just have to accept our beautiful game for the strange and wonderful thing that it is.
Yep.
Because for every bad thing that happens, just remember, there's a pre-match show at Dreamtime at the G for every bad moment, because that was one of the most amazing things I'd ever seen.
Yeah, I genuinely loved that Dreamtime at the G.
One of my favorites. Brad asks us, Damo, currently ranked in the top 500, but he doesn't have Sherry. We'll have the cash to go from Flynn to him next week in the flex, but it will leave him with only a little cash left, and Ashcroft and Lindsay are on-field rookies. Could go Marshall to Sherry instead. Just don't love the sidewaysiness. I think it'll be time for Flynn to go. What do you think?
Hey, Flynn to Cherry and only having Ashcroft and Lindsay on field, your team is in a good position.
There's a reason why you're top 500, and it's your instincts, Brad. And I think you should trust them in this case, because you're right. Marshall to Sherry is a little bit too sideways-ish for me. It's not for me. And I think getting rid of Flynn, who we know is volatile because he is the ruckman for the worst team in the AFL, that's a pure upgrade. And Lindsay and Ashcroft aren't going anywhere.
I like it, Brad.
Great work. Love your work. Ben asks us, do you reckon Ned Long is the greatest rookie pod of all time? Parentheses, the only good move I've made this season. Ned Long is quite possibly the greatest rookie pod of all time, because he kind of struck up out of nowhere and has had the role that we thought Perryman was going to get. I think in my humble opinion, I picked him up in a few draft leagues. Wasn't smart enough to go that in Classic. But yeah, I agree, Ben. Ned Long, great rookie pickup for you if you got him early enough.
He started the year just a touch under 200k as well, so only just snuck in as a rookie priced prospect. But he's now at 427k and still is going to make money because his break even is at 27.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
he has jumped off the canvas and is now Nick Dacos' bodyguard, and he is loving that role.
If only Nick Dacos loved that role and would decide to score some more fucking points. The Nebulous Shrub asks us, Tom Green or Zach Merritt? Fixture good or bad? Tags? Carl Amon? ? Well, Carl Amon is always a yes in Clarkie's book, except for that week where he got concussed, in which case that's a bad. I don't like that. That wasn't good for football.
To answer the tags question, I think that Tom Green is more likely to be shut down by a tag than Zach Merritt, but they are both tagged players quite often.
Tag targets, if you will.
Yes, that's what I was looking for.
Is that what you're trying to say?
That's the phrase I was looking for.
Karl Amon, 92 against West Coast, 92 against Melbourne, then a 105 and a 106 against Gold Coast and Brisbane. He's back, a baby. A 152 before that against Geelong. Never
Karl Amon, baby.
515k as a defender. We still love his work. Jared asks us, Damo, thoughts on Filippo? Brought him in early a couple of weeks ago and unsure what to do with him. Do I trade down to a rookie and use the cash next week to get the Bont or Sherry or a fallen Primo? Or do I ride it out for a couple more weeks to see if he can bridge the gap between him and Jason Horne-Francis? Thoughts on a mid-price cash generator this week in Shannon Neal, Kane McAuliffe? Worthwhile pickups, or is it better to wait for Callum Mills and Coleman with likely more scoring security? So let's talk about Filippo first, because Damo, you and I looked into this and we can't figure out what the hell is going on with Mattaes Filippo.
Yeah. So we had a look at his disposal chart, thanks to DFS Australia. And against Carlton, he appeared to be playing as like a specialist forward, only kind of coming out of the forward 50 arc sometimes. Against West Coast, he was everywhere and nowhere at the same time. And then against Gold Coast, he was just kind of on the wing the entire time. And it looked like he kind of came across the ground a little bit, but he was a wingman for pretty much that entire game. So is he a forward? Is he a midfielder? Is he a wingman? Is he a helicopter? We don't know anymore. We like Ross Lyon is too upset with Nepo teams and can't even put his own players in check.
Yeah, I agree with Dimmer. If Ross Lyon actually looked after his own backyard instead of making little snide comments about other teams, I think if you've got him, you probably just need to hold him for now. There's no reason to use Damo's thing of one more week, because we're also at the start of buys. We're also looking at what the hell is going on with St Kilda, because they need to figure out something. It's probably a little bit more of a favourable matchup against Melbourne. I don't know, it depends on which Melbourne turns up. If the Melbourne of the last couple of weeks turns up, then St Kilda might be in real trouble. But if the Melbourne from earlier in the season turns up, then could be a good big time for Mattaes.
What's Melbourne's record at Traeger Park?
I thought it was relatively good, but maybe I just enjoy watching the games quite a lot. Last time we played there, didn't we play you guys?
Oh yeah, and the Dockers won by like 90 points.
Yeah.
I remember now. Oh yeah.
Yeah, does that feel good?
Yeah, it does.
You feel good about that?
I mean, Cozzy Pickett tore us one earlier in this year, and only
I was going to ask, how's the Melbourne Freo matchup this year? Is it good?
And there's still another one to come.
Yeah. It might be more interesting the second time around. So I think Melbourne play at TIO relatively regularly. So I'm hoping that maybe there's a little bit of element of a conditioning for them, because it's not an unfamiliar ground. St Kilda, do they travel up there much? I don't think so.
No, St Kilda really didn't want to do these games because they'd already given away their own home games to play in like Cairns and New Zealand and Tasmania and all those sort of places. So they're like, no, we want to be in Melbourne this entire time. And now they're being told to go to Alice Springs, and they're going to be angry. And are they going to play angry? Who knows? I also just remembered that Melbourne lost the year before they played Fremantle to the Giants in like wet, hot conditions.
That's right. That's where Harry Petty, after he had kicked 5 goals, played that week and then immediately injured himself for the rest of the season.
Correct, yeah.
And he was never a good forward again. That was in 2023. Jesus.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, this is probably not a favourable matchup for St Kilda then on paper.
Doesn't sound like it's a favourable matchup for anyone.
Except I love watching the games at Alice Springs. I think they're so much fun.
And the scenery even behind the oval. There's one end where you can just see the red dust mountains. Like you can just see the nature outside of the stadium in the middle of Australia, and it's so beautiful.
Yeah. Anyway, hold Filippo for now. I think is probably my gut feel as somebody who also owns Filippo, just because there's probably bigger issues going on, and sometimes a warm body is a warm body. Now, Damo, thoughts on mid-price cash generators this week? Shannon Neal and Kane McAuliffe.
All right, so Shannon Neal is one that I've been asked about a little bit by mates in group chats, and yes, he's playing West Coast this week. Yes, he has a negative break even. But on projections, he's only due to make 60k. And that's going to come up in like 2 weeks before he maxes out in price. Is it worth it for a 2-week cash hit? I would say no.
Yeah, I think people are buying in as well to Geelong having the easiest run home. I think, which is probably another part of it. And I don't know if Shannon Neal is able to maintain a good enough average to really make more than that.
Yeah, he's still I would say I want to say he's a raw player. Like he's a physically fit player who's now got the body shape, but he's still learning. He is still he is still young, and sometimes these players can go on tears and have 4 or 5 games where they're the best player in the world, and then they can have quiet games where they score about 8 disposals in 4 weeks.
Yeah, mark my words though, I think Shannon Neal will be the next Tom Hawkins for Geelong.
Yeah, and
very genuinely,
maybe people are bringing in Shannon Neal because previously you could bring in Tom Hawkins around this time of the year and then get him on the run home kicking bags of goals. And I think that's what people are kind of searching for. And last year, everyone kind of didn't go for Tom Hawkins, went because he was injured, and went for Charlie Curnow. It didn't work out. Some people have gone for, I don't know who people are going for, but it's like been Tom Hawkins. Last year was Charlie Curnow. This year are people trying to hang it on Shannon Neal. I don't think it's going to work.
Yeah, fair enough. Kane McAuliffe.
As for Kane McAuliffe, I just worry about who's due to come back into that Richmond side.
Yeah, there's a few outs at the moment at Richmond, so it troubles me. Even troubles me picking someone like Campbell Gray if Uze hadn't come out and said what he said. They're willing.
And for people that didn't know, Uze has come out and said Campbell Gray deserves to be playing AFL. We will probably stick with him for a while. Like that's I don't know if that's word for word, but it's pretty much the quote.
Yeah, and hey, look, this is all worth a grain of salt because things change in football, but that's the best information we have at the moment.
And he's also asked about Mills and Coleman.
Yes.
So Callum Mills, I actually do like Callum Mills, and if he wasn't suspended, I might have brought him in early. Gideon Coleman, he's not named to play this week, and he's actually developed swelling in the same knee that he had his ACL injury. So he might go out for a little while again while they sort that out. So Callum Mills, yes. Gideon Coleman, I wouldn't do it just yet. I would honestly wait for him to come back for his second game and assess after that and see if he's sore or anything after that, because sore after one game when he only played like 60% game time, he didn't even play the full game, pretty bruise-free role as well. It's a worry.
Yeah.
But Callum Mills looked great on return, 357k or something. Like, there's a world where you could turn like 3 dead rookies into Mills and 2 rookies.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
That's all the questions for this week, so we'll rack up the boots and hat for another week. Now, this is just a reminder, we have already covered a little bit about traffic lights, but traffic lights are coming out as normal this week on a Thursday with a potential update on Friday if needed once the Sunday teams are confirmed. We use a green, yellow, and red rating system. Green is good, yellow is watch or hold, red is trade or avoid. And hey, we pick players for several reasons, but they include scoring potential, job security, price point, reliability, and injury status, just so you know. And hey, be grateful. Damo puts a lot of work into those because I absolutely only have time to review his work and then give him a thumbs up, usually. So bless Damo for doing it. Thank you so much, Damo. We love you.
Yeah, I mean, and last week and the week before, we asked for feedback on the traffic lights and then asked for feedback on the podcast. The feedback on the traffic lights was keep them as is. They're great. They're your brand. Someone actually told us that traffic lights are our brand. Don't change our brand. So fantastic to tell us that. Thank you. We've also had other feedback. People really like our season so far. Mostly 8s and 9s and 10s out of 10. So thank you to those people. They also think that me and you give good advice and have enough airtime to give good advice.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't cut each other off. We don't necessarily echo each other unnecessarily. So that's also good.
I like that we don't echo each other unnecessarily as well.
Yeah.
Is that a good joke? Is that good? Is this what you wanted, listeners? I love that we're doing a performance review live on air. This is my favorite segment of the mailbag. Is the learn and reflection portion.
No one had realized that we had made a slight tweak to our run sheet where we don't have scripted parts.
Oh yeah.
So they didn't know that we had made a change. So
that's
this
very
season,
funny because this is definitely unscripted. Did you guys notice that I've spent the whole year giving a shtick about our mail being live mails? I've anthropomorphized mail.
Yeah, so I said this season we tried to make the podcast sound more organic and more of a conversation and less scripted and structured, and people say they like the change. One person said they had not noticed. So yeah,
I love that. Hey, we appreciate you. Authenticity is really important to us.
Obviously in the years gone by, we've had a guest almost every week, but we haven't had many this season, just because everyone seems to be recording on Wednesdays now, which is when we usually record. So scheduling conflicts, recording late, all those sorts of things. Just haven't been able to get people on as usual as we previously had. And no one seems to mind. The guests are just a bonus is pretty much what they've said. And then the specific feedback, that there was a little box where they could actually tell us things. They like Clarky hosting and they like me as a sounding board. So they like that it switches. So one of the responses, and this is what started my beef with Facebook, started with please get the traffic lights out prior to Friday. And I was like, it is out. It was out prior to Friday. Went on to Facebook, wasn't there. Hate Facebook. We've already been over that. The next one...
The warning to Mark Zuckerberg segment. Yes, I remember it.
Then the next one, he loves the voice messages. He loves that addition. He wants more Draft League content. So we will work something out for that. He's not a Tim, but he likes our style.
That's fair. Hey, look, and we all have the capacity to be Nebulous Tim, but Nebulous Tim is also benevolent and kind. So he accepts you for who you are.
And we actually got some really good constructive feedback on one of these. So he used last episode as an example. We probably answered about 4 or 5 questions all about Horne-Francis, Callahan, and McRae. All the same question, asking all the same thing, just specifically for their own team and their own team situation. And he says that it can be repetitive, especially if teams are sounding similar.
Yeah. So okay, look, if we're doing this demo, let's talk about the conversation that we did consider this piece of feedback, and I think you and I had a discussion about
so we're letting people know now. We're letting our listeners know now that if multiple questions come up and they are of similar theme, we will only answer the main part of the question. Your specific part of your question will then be answered as a standalone question.
Yeah, so this just comes from the mailbag. We we appreciate that people take the time to write us questions that are specific. We know that they are specific to their team, and we try to provide advice that can be applied in many different scenarios. And it's a struggle sometimes to decide. We know that we've already spoken about this, and we also want to give you the respect and time that to the question that you've asked, because you've taken the time to write to us, and we want to make sure that we cover that. So I think you'll probably notice as well, if you listen back to a few episodes, the Horn Francis one, I think, is an outlier, I'd hope, but it's still fair criticism. But I think sometimes we will refer back to segments in the post. We go, hey, we spoke about this earlier, we'll move it on. So we'll try to keep that in mind. But yeah, we appreciate that feedback, and just wanted you to know that's because we want to give the respect to the question that was asked.
But he loves how organic the podcast feels. He loves our chemistry because, me and Clarky love each other. And he says we're doing an incredible job, and he listens every week without fail. So I don't know, and this is an anonymous survey, so I don't know who said that, but we love you. We love you.
Absolutely.
I listen to you every week without fail. You.
Yeah, we're legally obligated though, so it's not as nice, but we do love you. The obligation of love is not there. The answering the question is obligated though.
Yes.
As I've said before. But hey, thank you so much for your feedback, guys. We really appreciate it, and we're always open to making the show better and more lovable. And you know what? More cruelty free. You can never be cruelty-free enough. Damo, it's time for us to move on to something that can be cruel, and it's our captains and vice-captain selections for this week. Damo, who have you got the VC on currently?
I think it's going to be a bloodbath at the Gabba. I've got my VC on Lachie Neale.
That's huge. I currently have the VC on Max Gawn against St Kilda at TIO. I don't know. Just the vibe. Max Gawn is absolutely killing it at the moment, and Melbourne are flying. Is that true? I don't know. I'm still in space the whole time. Last week I had such a shit week with captains last week.
Melbourne undefeated as Nam, and Fremantle undefeated as Walyulup. So maybe Fremantle and Melbourne should change their name to Nam and Walyulup. Where's Nam? Hey, you're in Melbourne. There it is. Where's Fremantle? It's in Walyulup. Where's Walyulup? It's in Fremantle. Sorry, I just had to say that.
Yeah, thank you. Last week I had multiple VC scores that I considered and never took, including Lachie Neale, Zach Merritt, and Max Gawn. At one point I had the VC on each of them, and I ended up putting it on Tristan Xerri, so I missed out on probably about 50 points on average from that little, even though Tristan Xerri scored 126, which is respectable. So I don't know, I'm a bit scared to pick a captain this week and just hoping for a serviceable score. Damo, who is your captain on this week?
I'm just hoping Neale does enough that I don't have to think about it too much. But I could go at the moment. The C is sitting on Darcy Cameron against Lloyd Meek, but I'm not entirely sold on that. I also don't mind a Whitfield against Richmond, or a Bailey Smith against West Coast. I don't know. I just really hope they don't have to decide on that matter.
Shut up, you beautiful person. I have the C on Bailey Smith. It is my idea. I'll not let you get to it before I shall. The Bailey Smith against West Coast feels pretty no-brainer. I've also got Max Holmes on my team, who could also do very well against West Coast, but those are all really good options. I think looking at my team, I've got Noah Anderson, I've got Brayshaw, but neither of them are really sparking joy. Nick Dacos is kind of on a bit of an average streak. He's peaked.
I mean, if I wasn't so set on Lachie Neale as VC, I'd put the VC on Isaac Rankin against Sydney.
Okay.
But that would only be if I chicken out of Lachie Neale, and I just think that it's just at the Gabba in Brisbane, Lachie Neale against Essendon. He scores well against Essendon. It's just match made in heaven, basically, for me.
I don't know. The last two games at the last game at the Gabba for Brisbane didn't go so well, did it, Damo? It was the last two games that they didn't have a good time, but it was the last game at the Gabba.
Lachie Neale last year, he scored 166 points against Essendon in round 24 last year, and then 2 years before that scored 198 as well. He loves playing against Essendon.
I will shout out, we haven't shouted out this person for a while, but I do want to shout them out again. Pigmentality does a really great Supercoach Captains video that he drops on a Thursday usually. That is probably one of my go-to videos just to help me pick my draft captains as well, just in case I have anyone that he recommends from those lists that's sitting around. He recommends some pod VCs, he recommends some normal style VCs and C options, and hits pretty well. And I think it's really helped the way that I think about captains a lot. So I'd love to give Pigmentality a shout out. If you want to go check him out, I believe he's on the YouTube is the best way, or you can follow Pigmentality on Twitter.
Or whatever people call it.
X, Twitter, whatever. I'm calling
X,
it
Twitter, X. It's broken.
Damo, I am a millennial. I refuse to call it anything less than Twitter at this point in my life. I'm too old for change. If I change too much, my knee will blow out.
At the moment, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Let's not talk about that.
Hey, that's it for this episode of the Footy Mailbag. If you haven't given our show a rating on your listening platform of choice, please do so. It helps new listeners find us. How? We don't know. We're not that smart, but it does. You can also help us by just sharing this podcast with your friends, the verbal style. You can also find us over at the Footy Mailbag on pretty much every social media there is. And Damo, where can people find you?
Damo SC on Twitter, add an underscore after that for Instagram. I am nowhere else.
And you can find me over at Quantum JC, or you can also check out my other podcast, The Falcon, a footy podcast, and we're at Falcon Footy Pod across all the formats. This week, Damo, I created a game that was designed to only punish me if I lost, and I ended up drinking a lot of pickle juice. I don't like pickles. I'd never had pickle juice before. The very legit AFL pickle juice. I'm showing Damo the bottle now that I had at my desk. So if you want to hear that on a podcast, you can go check out at Falcon Footy Pod. It was not a good idea. I still feel a little bit sick. But you should also make sure that you check out our website, thefootymailbag.net, where you can find our podcast feed, you can find merch, written content. We haven't done any for a little bit, but it's hard. We have jobs and lives. We're doing our best. You can also find the traffic lights and links to all of our socials. Listeners, good luck in the first of the buy rounds. We'll talk next time.
I have a burger to eat.